Hello and welcome to part 4 of HTML Basics. I'm Jeff LaBeouf, and in this video we continue our discussion about relative and absolute paths. Okay. Now what I wrote here was relative paths and absolute paths. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy this and paste it down here. It looks like I have the same image, right? If I preview my page, we can see we do. There's a difference between relative and absolute paths. A relative path is what I wrote here, diamondback.gif. An absolute path would refer to a URL. So this image is on my website. If I go back to my website, I can see the graphic there, and I can right click and choose properties. I can actually see the address right here for that image. If I copy that, jump back to Dreamweaver, instead of just putting diamondback.gif, I can paste. Here we go. And now we have the full URL instead of just the file name. Let's save that and preview this just to make sure that it still works. And it does. I can see absolute paths right here. It's still the same file. Looks like the same file. Yeah. If I choose properties, I can see that it's actually the address is still coming from my website, jeffreyleboeuf.com. Whereas if I view this one up here, the properties, the address is localhost, which is what I'm running this tutorial from. Looks like the color's a little different, so that's probably from when I saved my GIF. That's interesting. Okay. So let's make some changes to this. If I take my Diamondback image and I move it, perhaps put it inside of another folder, I can do that. Let's create a new folder called Images. And we'll put Diamondback inside the Images folder. Oops, I don't want to update that because I want to do it manually here in the tutorial. So now that I've done that, my link is broken. The absolute path works fine because that is on my website somewhere. I'm actually going to go ahead and just minimize that for now. But my relative path is broken. So I haven't changed my file name, but I did move the location of the file. It is not in the same folder relative to the paths file. So for that reason, just putting the file name, the server can't locate the file that's been identified there as the value. So we get a broken link. To fix this, I have to provide an accurate path to the file name, which was images/diamondback. There we go. It's fixed. Okay. Now one problem that you might encounter is if the image or the link isn't in a subfolder. So images is a subfolder of pages because it's inside of pages. But what if Diamondback was actually in the root? Don't update. Okay. So now we have that broken link image again. Okay, because when the server looks in the images folder for diamondback.gif, it doesn't find it. We need it to go outside of pages into the root and look for diamondback.gif. You do that with a ... There we go, it's back. Okay. So if we were to follow this path, we would go ... which would tell us to leave the folder or to go up one level and then look for the file name. Oops, diamondback.gif. Let's move our folder images to our local root and move Diamondback in that. Okay, so this is another example. We have our index in our root, but we've organized our site with a pages folder and an images folder. So now paths the paths.html file contains our image tag, and the src, the relative path here, actually needs to trace all the way back into the images folder. So we first need to leave pages and go up one level to the root. So we still use the dot dot, but then if you look, there's no file there in the root. We have to go in the images folder. So we say slash image, not typing in the right place, slash images Diamondback. There we go, we fixed it again. Okay, so that's how paths work. Let's go back to absolute, and we're going to make a link to a couple of pages here. So that's the image tag. If we wanted to create a link, first we'd create some content. So let's create some text that says view my site. Actually, let's do that. Instead of view my site, here we'll put visit my food report. If you watched the last tutorial, then you're familiar with food report. That was the last file that we created. So my index shown in the files menu is actually something called food report. Oops. Okay. So what I've done is I've written some text, and we'll just create a p tag. So the sentence is paragraph type, so I've wrapped it in a p tag, and then I've used the a tag for the words food report. So the two words food report is going to be the content for my link. The A element is an inline tag, which means I can nest it inside of other tags, and it does not start a new line. You'll see it says visit my food report, still one line. Okay, so the A tag for anchor is what it stands for. Right now isn't working. It isn't a link yet because it's missing an attribute. So the important attribute for links is href. This is hypertext reference. So href equals and then a value. And if you notice a pattern here, all attributes follow the same syntax. We have the code, the equal sign, and then the value in quotes. So the value here is the actual website. It could be a URL if it's an absolute path, or it could be a relative path. So we want to link back to the index.html file. So that means I'm going to use a relative path, and I need to leave the pages folder to get there. So to go up one level, I use dot dot slash index.html. And now my link in the preview shows up as underline. It's a link I click on. Let's save this, and we will preview the site. Here we go. Let's preview this one more time. I deleted my absolute path image. If I click on food report, there it goes. It takes me back to my food report page. Now, if I wanted to link from the food report back to the paths page, I could do that as well. I think we've learned how to do that now. So let's create a link. We'll just put it right here before we start our supermarket foods outline. So another paragraph tag, and we'll say visit my images page, and we will put the images page inside the A tag, or we'll wrap anchors around images page. So the attribute again is href equals, and now I need to create another relative path to my file, which is actually called paths.html. So if I do this, just like that, just by naming the file name, it's not going to work because inside the root there is no file called paths.html. That file is actually nested in a subfolder called pages. So remember our discussion earlier, I need to create a correct path. Here we go. So look in pages and find paths.html. Let's preview this again. If I click food report, it takes me to my, ooh, did I save it? Looks like I saved it. Okay, see it there. Preview in Internet Explorer. There we go. Okay, visit my images page. Let's click it. Takes me back here. Food report. Images page. And we can go back and forth. Okay. So, one last thing I want to touch on, and that is, back here in my paths, you can make images a link also. So this, under absolute paths, let's create a link that links back to my website. So I'm going to use the A tag here, and instead of wrapping this in around text, the content is actually the IMG. So href equals, and I'm going to use an absolute path, http:// There we go. Okay. And we'll save it. And let's preview this. There we go. And Internet Explorer will will create this blue border to identify an image as a link. When we get into CSS, we can talk about ways to hide that or modify that to look a little differently. Let's click on Diamondback Finish Carpentry here, and it should take us to our website, and it does. Good. And you might notice it left our original website. Sometimes that's a problem. Sometimes when you're designing a site and you have a link that goes to a different site, an external page, or a page in another person's site or another organization's site, you don't want users to leave your site to go visit someone else's. So what you can do is create and use another attribute that will open the link in a new window or a new tab. That is called target. So if you have an anchor, the A tag, you can use the target attribute, and we're going to set it to blank. Save that. Okay, let's preview this, refresh this page, and here's my link to my website. If I click it, you'll see it opens a new tab. So it goes to the website, but it opens it in a new tab. So the user is still technically on my site. They don't have to hit the back button to get back to my original site. They can just close the tab when they're done browsing that external page, and they are where they left. They're at the point that they left my site. Okay, so that concludes our discussion on images, links, and paths. Stay tuned for more videos. Thank you.